So, you actually made it. 23 parts of code, configs, traps, and small wins behind you, and one real product shipped. This last part isn't another tutorial. It's the conversation I think we owe each other at the end about what you carry forward, who you build alongside, and the things the tutorials never quite say out loud. Before we go anywhere, just look at the shape of it. 5 phases, 23 weeks, from a setup day where Linux still felt foreign, to a first hello world out of a local model, to making it actually answer questions from your own documents, to standing up something that behaves like a real assistant, and finally Ask My Docs. The stack you're now running quietly on your own machine. Some companies are paying $1 million a year for the hosted version. That's not a small thing, that's a lot. But here's the thing. The specific tools you used will age out. Llama 3 won't be the model you're running in 5 years, so what actually stays? 4 habits. Ship the smallest thing that works, then add layers. Trust your own evals over leaderboard scores. Pick the right tool per query instead of defending a side. And keep your plumbing boring. JSON logs and cron will still be running long after the clever stuff breaks. And while we're talking about what stays, let's talk about what falls away. 5 myths you used to hear constantly, and now you've personally disproven everyone. You don't need a $5,000 GPU. Local models aren't toys. AI isn't too flaky for production. You don't need an ML PhD. And RAG is very much not solved. You ran the experiments. You saw the numbers. That kind of knowing is different from reading a blog post about it. But knowing alone gets lonely, so don't try to keep going alone. These 6 places are where this work actually breathes. Reddit's R, local LMA for the daily pulse, Alama's Discord and GitHub when something breaks, Hugging Face when you want to share or fine-tune dev.to for the long postmortems, a carefully curated X feed, and honestly, local meetups in person whenever you can. Pick 2 or 3 that fit you, lurk first, contribute later. That's how you stay current after the videos end. And once you've found those communities, the natural next step is giving something back. But here's the thing. You don't need to maintain a project to contribute. Write up what didn't work, an 800-word postmortem on dev to saves the next person a full week of debugging, file issues that someone can actually reproduce, share that model file you tuned for your weird domain, translate a doc, review a PR, answer 1 Discord question a week, and maybe the highest leverage thing, DM 1 beginner and walk them through their first chat. The community grows by ones, not by posts. And when you do walk that beginner through their first chat, here's what I'd tell them. The same 4 things I wish someone had told me. Run something today. Don't wait until you understand it because action creates the questions that papers answer. Expect it to feel hard. Everyone was lost around part 3 and most people quit one evening too early. Build for yourself first, solve your own pain, and the audience finds tools that actually work. And ignore 90% of AI Twitter. Pin your stack quarterly, read papers monthly, build weekly, tweet rarely. Now, before we wrap, I owe you some honesty about what this series didn't cover. Quantization internals, GGUF formats, Q4 versus Q8 trade-offs. We just used what Alama gave us, but going deeper buys you that last 30% of performance. Distributed inference across multiple GPUs is big org territory, worth it when one machine isn't enough. RLHF and model alignment is a whole career on its own, the training side, not just inference. Eval sets at 5,000 examples with multi-rater scoring is a different sport from the 50-example version we built. And AI safety, prompt injection, jailbreaks, leak prevention, critical, easy to skip, painful to learn the hard way. Now you know what to look up. So here's the question worth sitting with. What do you do with your next 1,000 hours? That's roughly a year of evenings, and my honest advice is pick one direction. Build something for a real person you know, solve their document problem, iterate weekly, and by month 6 you'll have a tool someone would pay for. Or go deeper than Alama, read llama.cpp source, quantize a model yourself, become the person teams call when inference is slow. Or teach, write the part of this series you wish existed in your language. Whichever you pick, don't sample all 3. Depth wins here. And if 1,000 hours feels like a lot to hold in your head, here are the 3 sentences I'd actually tape to your monitor. 1. Local AI is enough for most real work. Your laptop, no API key, no permission slip, just build. 2. Reach for RAG before prompts. Prompts before fine-tuning, and fine-tuning before training, in that order by leverage. And 3. Boring infrastructure compounds. JSON logs, cron jobs, SQLite, logrotate. That's what keeps your system running 6 months from now while you sleep. Resist novelty in the plumbing. Before we close, I want to say thank you, and mean it. To you first. 23 weeks is a real commitment, and most people who start tutorials never finish. You did. That's a habit that compounds far beyond this topic. To the open source maintainers behind Ollama, Llama.cpp, Chroma, LangChain, FastAPI, Faster Whisper, Piper, they gave away years of work, so star their repos, sponsor when you can. To the model makers, Meta, Mistral, Qwen, Anthropic, OpenAI, without their weights and APIs, none of this exists. And to the person you'll teach next, that's the loop closing. The series ends, the teaching keeps going. Now some real talk before we wrap. You'll forget half of the specific commands within 6 months, and that's genuinely fine. The shape of how things fit together is what stays, and you can always rederive the details. Half the tools we use didn't exist 2 years ago, and half will be replaced soon, so bet on skills over stacks. You'll feel like an imposter for years, even on projects that ship. Everyone does. And the only cure is building the next thing anyway. And the label AI engineer will keep shifting under your feet. Identify with the work, not the title. So pause for a second and actually take this in. 24 weeks ago, you didn't know what a token was. Now you're running quantized models on your own hardware, you ship 22 pieces of real work, and you have one product that actually exists in the world. That used to take a funded research team. You did it on a laptop in the evenings by yourself. That's the gap between using this stuff and making it. You crossed it. And if you take nothing else from these 24 parts, take these 5. Privacy stopped being a trade-off and became the default. 8 billion parameter models, used well, beat frontier models used carelessly. Working beats planning, every time. Open ecosystems compound on each other while closed ones quietly rot. And the last one is the one I most want you to sit with. Somewhere out there, a beginner is starting part 1 this week, and you are now the person who can answer their questions. So here's the whole series, distilled to 12 lines on a single page. Print it, tape it next to your monitor, read it before you start your next project, and read it again when you're stuck halfway through. None of it is clever. That's the point. These are the boring habits that quietly separate people who ship local AI from people who keep meaning to. So that's it. 24 parts, and you made it to the end, which means you're not the same person who started. Don't let tonight pass without using what you've learned. Open a terminal, pull a model, and ask it the hardest real question you've got sitting in your head. The series ends here, but you're the one who can answer now. Thank you for staying. Now go build.